One last one for you, Dana. You're now officially promoting boxing shows. We have UFC lightweight champion Ilia Topuria saying he's going to knock out Terence Crawford. Can we expect some crossover boxing matches like you did with Mayweather and McGregor moving forward?
I certainly hope not.
No tengo ninguna opinión, que cuando se quiera medir, cuando quiera poner a prueba sus técnicas, sus habilidades, aquí estoy para demostrar, porque es que últimamente me molesta porque hay muchos boxeadores que salen y siempre se meten en nuestro juego y nos critican y siempre nos quieren por debajear, y la verdad es que hay muchos atletas que han intentado ir al boxeo y probar sus habilidades, pero no conozco a muchos de ellos que hablan tanto que hayan probado sus habilidades en MMA, pero de todas maneras, cualquiera que quiera, aquí estamos.
I'm not worried about him at all. To be honest, I never even seen this dude fight. I didn't even know who he was. When he seen me at the UFC, he came up and shook my hand saying, "What's up to me?" I didn't even know who he was. Then I see him online talking about he'd knock me out. And, well, if you wanted to fight me, you had the opportunity to tell me like, "Hey man, I want to fight you. What's up?" That's fake. I'm not gonna go hide behind, the keyboard and go, I knocked this dude out, this and that and this. I definitely think he's trying to clout chase. I think he'll definitely get in the ring with me for the right check. That's what we all do it for. But at the same time, what the fuck is that? I don't know what he thinking this way. I will. Ain't even nothing to talk about.
She just challenged the entire boxing world to prove they're not frauds. And what happened next is about to expose everything you thought you knew about combat sports.
He's not nowhere near on the level of Conor McGregor. Let's be real, stop it. Don't ever compare him to Conor. Conor was here, he's here. Like I said, I don't know this guy. I never seen this guy fight. And I watch a lot of MMA, you know what I mean? Maybe, I'm slipping. Maybe he's a good fighter, you know what I mean? I don't know, but I honestly never seen this guy fight, for sure. I've seen Conor McGregor fight a lot of times. It's night and day. You know it's night and day. Don't ever try to say they on the same level. What we talking about? We not talking about that. Tell that guy to, keep up the good work in his career. I wish him the best.
I think UFC's better than boxing. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great.
The skill level is different.
All right, so hold on. Let me ask you guys a question. You don't think like John Jones would dominate in boxing? Honestly.
Hell no.
What?
Hell
okay, Ilia Topuria.
Tell him come fight me.
He's a crazy boxer, bro.
I don't care. Tell him come fight me.
Hold on a second. What about...
UFC is good for what they do, and we good for what we do.
That makes sense.
What I mean?
To be honest, love Justin Gaethje. He's already spoken, Ilia Topuria, about his desire to want to go and compete in the boxing world.
If I prepare for 6 months, like only boxing, put me whoever you want in front of me.
His hands are electric, and of course the power that he has is second to none, right? He's only a little guy, but my God, does he pack a punch.
So here's the brutal reality nobody wants to admit. When Ilia Topuria steps up and calls out Terence Crawford, this isn't some random Twitter beef or promotional stunt. This is a featherweight UFC champion who just starched Max Holloway in front of 80,000 screaming fans in Abu Dhabi, now telling one of boxing's so-called pound-for-pound kings that his whole sport is living a lie. And Crawford, he took the bait, hard. You know what's wild about this whole situation? Crawford actually showed up to Topuria's fight, did this whole theatrical walkout entrance like he owned the place. But here's the kicker, that wasn't respect. That was a calculated power move. Crawford was trying to steal shine from a man who had just delivered one of the most vicious knockouts in UFC history, and Topuria saw right through it. Because when you're dealing with a guy who's conquered the most dangerous division in MMA, who speaks 4 languages fluently and has never backed down from anyone, you better come correct. Crawford didn't. He came with boxing arrogance, and now he's about to learn why that's a fatal mistake.
His hands full because he cruised to a victory in that fight. Now, in that fight, I don't know, maybe to add insult to injury, Terence Crawford walked out to Ilia Topuria's walkout music. That annoyed the champ, Topuria, right? And he had a little bee in his bonnet. But since then, he's been distracted. And when he comes back to the UFC, he's going to fight Justin Gaethje. I think that's probably going to be the main event at the White House in June. But then, as I said, he has spoken many times about wanting to fight boxers. And now we have Shakur Stevenson, world champion.
But wait, it gets absolutely insane when you dive into the money aspect of this whole situation. Remember when Floyd Mayweather fought Conor McGregor back in 2017? That circus act generated over $600 million in revenue. $600 million. For a fight everyone knew was more exhibition than competition. Floyd walked away with close to $300 million, Conor pocketed around $100 million, and the boxing world acted like they just witnessed the second coming. But here's what they don't want you to realize: that fight proved something terrifying for traditional boxing. It proved that MMA fighters, even in a boxing ring with boxing rules, could generate more interest, more pay-per-view buys, and more mainstream attention than 90% of actual boxing matches. Crawford has never, and I mean never, come close to those numbers. His biggest payday was maybe $15 million against Errol Spence, and that fight took years to make because both sides were arguing over money splits. Meanwhile, Topuria just headlined a card that did massive numbers globally, speaking Spanish to Latin American fans, English to American audiences, and Georgian to his home country. This dude is building a worldwide empire, while Crawford is still trying to prove he's relevant outside of boxing purist circles.
He wants to step into the squared circle with me. Bring it on. So, let's have a look at what he said. So first of all, this all happened on a stream of Aiden Ross. And Aiden Ross said that, UFC is so much better than boxing. And,
You guys with the UFC as a whole?
Yo, I saw you say that. You gotta take that back.
What?
You said that the UFC is better than boxing.
It's true, and you know it's true.
It's not true.
Come
It's
on,
not
even look.
and he said, you got to take that back because boxing is so much better. The UFC will never be better than boxing.
UFC would never be better than boxing.
At all. It ain't even close.
Ever.
And then Stevenson added,
The skill level is different.
and yes, the skill level.
Now listen to this part, because this is where Topuria's confidence goes from bold to absolutely terrifying. When he says he only needs 6 months of boxing training to handle Crawford, he's not being delusional. He's being strategic. This man has been studying tape, analyzing weaknesses, and he's spotted something in Crawford's game that most people miss. Crawford is phenomenal at adapting to orthodox fighters, switching stances, creating angles. But you know what Crawford has never faced? Someone who's been getting punched by heavyweight training partners. Someone who survived 5-round wars with killers like Volkanovski and Holloway. Someone whose pain tolerance has been forged in a place where one mistake means you're unconscious or tapping out. Topuria has been hit by Max Holloway, one of the greatest strikers in MMA history, and not only survived but knocked him out cold. Crawford's biggest win is against a welterweight in Errol Spence who looked shot and drained. The levels of opposition aren't even comparable. And here's the scary part: Topuria genuinely believes his natural power, combined with 6 months of pure boxing focus, is enough to end Crawford's undefeated record. That's not arrogance talking. That's a man who's felt his own power, who knows what happens when his left hand connects clean.
Man, they are a pain in the arse. It's hard to hit them, and it's easy to get hit. But you know what we do? We push them up against the fence, we'd throw a kick, we'd chop their legs down, and they wouldn't be dancing around anywhere. Or we'd shoot in a double leg takedown, put them on their arse, and just elbow the living death out of them, right? Or choke them out on contact.
Here's where everything gets completely wild. And this is what Crawford doesn't understand about the mental warfare he just walked into. In MMA, trash talk isn't just promotion. It's psychological warfare designed to break your opponent before the fight even starts. Topuria has been perfecting this craft against guys who could literally kill him with their bare hands. When Conor McGregor got into Jose Aldo's head, Aldo lasted 13 seconds. When Topuria starts talking, he's not just selling a fight. He's implanting doubt, creating pressure, making his opponent question everything they think they know about themselves. Crawford comes from boxing, where most of the talk is scripted, where fighters have promoters managing their image and carefully crafted personas. But Topuria, this dude will look you dead in the eye and tell you exactly how he's going to destroy you in perfect detail, and then go out and do it exactly like he said. He told everyone he was going to knock out Max Holloway, the most durable fighter in the division, and then dropped him face first on the canvas. He predicted the round, the method, everything. Now he's doing the same thing to Crawford, and Crawford has no idea how to handle someone who backs up every single word with violence. The psychological advantage isn't even close.
It takes effort. So that's the first thing I would say to Shakur Stevenson when he says that the skill level isn't the same. And he's right, in the boxing world, it isn't the same. So then Aiden Ross chimes in, he's like, hold on a minute, let me ask you a question.
All right, so like, hold on, let me ask you guys a question. You don't think like John Jones would dominate in boxing, honestly?
Hell no.
And I can answer that question. I don't need Crawford or Shakur Stevenson. He wouldn't. If he stepped over to the heavyweight division right now in the boxing world, John Jones would get beaten, just like the majority of mixed martial artists would. Of course, we had Francis Ngannou.
And get this, the business implications of this potential fight are absolutely staggering in ways most people don't realize. The UFC has been quietly positioning itself to absorb boxing's biggest stars for years now. They've got the infrastructure, the global reach, the streaming deals, and most importantly, they've got fighters who can actually sell fights without needing 6 months of press conferences and promotional tour. If Topuria beats Crawford in a boxing match, it doesn't just prove MMA striking is superior. It proves that the entire boxing promotional model is outdated. Think about it, Crawford needs Showtime, needs premier boxing champions, needs a whole ecosystem of promoters and networks to make big fights happen. Topuria just needs the UFC to post on social media, and suddenly everyone's talking about it. Dana White has been salivating over the possibility of absorbing boxing's revenue streams, and a Topuria victory over Crawford would be the perfect excuse to start poaching boxing's biggest names. We're talking about a potential shift of billions of dollars in combat sports revenue. Crawford thinks he's protecting boxing's reputation, but he's actually walking into a trap that could destroy the sport's financial independence forever.
Very, very distracted. He seemed overweight. He seemed a bit sloppy, okay? And he paid the price. He almost got beaten by a mixed martial artist making his boxing debut. All right, so carry on here. So then Aiden Ross says, well, what about Ilia Topuria? And Shakur says, tell him to fight me.
Tell him come fight me.
He's a crazy boxer, bro.
I don't care. Tell him come fight me.
Right? Now, as I said at the beginning, this could be the next big crossover matchup. Now, granted, Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, that was lightning in a bottle. Floyd Mayweather, of course, he was 49-0 at the time. He was undefeated. He was Money Mayweather. He was the man. He was the face of boxing for that generation.
You just saw.
But hold up, because there's something way more disturbing happening behind the scenes that nobody's talking about. Crawford's team knows this fight is dangerous. They know Topuria isn't some desperate MMA fighter looking for a payday. This is a legitimate world champion who genuinely believes he can win, and worse, he might be right. So why are they even entertaining this? Because Crawford's stock is dropping fast. He's 37 years old, he's cleaned out his division, and his biggest potential fights are either retired or fighting each other. Tank Davis is getting more attention. Ryan Garcia is more popular with younger fans, and even guys like Shakur Stevenson are being positioned as the future of boxing. Crawford needs this fight more than Topuria does, and that desperation is exactly what Topuria is counting on. In MMA, when a fighter gets desperate, when they start taking fights for the wrong reasons, that's when they get hurt. That's when their careers end. Crawford is walking into this situation from a position of weakness, trying to prove he's still relevant, while Topuria is coming from a position of pure strength, looking to add another legendary scalp to his collection.
The biggest star that the sport of mixed martial arts has ever seen by a long country mile, okay? Simple as that. So them two going up against one another, they had the world tour that was very, very successful. Multiple cities all over the world, people losing their minds in London, in Toronto, in Dublin, and all kinds of shit, right? The promotion was on the next level.
What are you doing with a school bag on stage? You can't even read.
And it resulted in over 4 million pay-per-view buys. It was the money fight, and both men made an absolute fortune. And now look at this. We've got Ilia Topuria that, regardless, and we're not talking about the tattoos or the manifestation.
Now here's the kicker that makes this whole situation absolutely insane. Topuria isn't just confident he can beat Crawford. He's confident he can do it while making Crawford look like an amateur. And the terrifying thing is, he might be right. Topuria has been training with world-class boxers his entire MMA career. He's worked with guys who have competed at the highest levels of both sports. But more importantly, he's been getting hit by fighters who are bigger, stronger, and more explosive than anyone Crawford has ever faced. Max Holloway has some of the best boxing in MMA, and Topuria made him look slow and predictable. Josh Emmett hits harder than most heavyweights, and Topuria walked through his power like it was nothing. Meanwhile, Crawford's last few fights have been against guys who were either past their prime or moving up in weight. The level of opposition isn't even comparable. And here's what's really scary. Topuria has been studying Crawford's tape obsessively. He knows Crawford's patterns, his tendencies, his favorite combinations. But Crawford has no idea what Topuria is capable of because MMA striking is completely different from boxing. The angles are different, the timing is different, the power generation is different. Crawford is preparing for a boxing match, but Topuria is preparing for war.
He's got the profile. He's building and adding to that all the time. The man is one of the biggest stars in all of the organization, and he's not even competing right now because they've got an interim champion, right? But he's coming back, and if he beats Justin Gaethje, and that is a big if, and if he does want to go and box, well, guess what? Now the UFC also have Zuffa Boxing, right? So they have the perfect platform. They're putting on fights every week. They're slowly building in the boxing world, and from my understanding right now,
So here you have it, we're watching the beginning of a seismic shift in combat sports, where the lines between MMA and boxing are about to get completely obliterated. Topuria isn't just challenging Crawford to a fight. He's challenging the entire hierarchy of combat sports, the idea that boxing is the pinnacle of striking, the notion that specialized training beats well-rounded combat skills. And honestly, the evidence is on his side. MMA fighters have been crossing over and finding success in boxing, while boxers who try MMA get absolutely destroyed. This isn't just about two fighters settling a beef anymore. This is about which combat sport produces the most complete, most dangerous fighters on the planet. Do you think Crawford's boxing pedigree is enough to handle a guy who's been perfecting violence in the most demanding combat sport in the world? Or is Topuria about to prove that MMA has officially surpassed boxing as the ultimate test of fighting skill? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is about to get absolutely wild. If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening in combat sports, smash that like button, subscribe for more fight analysis that cuts through the BS, and hit the notification bell because when this fight gets announced, you're going to want to be first to know. I'll see you in the next one.
with a TV deal in North America, right? So those guys know they're boxing, okay? That's what he said. So they've got the platform. They don't need to go off and use other promoters. They do it themselves already. They've just got to sign Shakur Stevenson, and to be fair, he's not a Floyd Mayweather. When you look at the record, the man is 25-0, 11 knockouts, and when it comes to the championships, WBO featherweight champion at 126 pounds, mind you. WBC super featherweight champion at 130 pounds, and the WBC lightweight champion at 135 pounds, and the WBC junior welterweight champion at 100.
The rabbit hole goes even deeper when you start looking at the training footage that's been leaking out of both camps. Crawford's been posting these traditional boxing workouts, heavy bag sessions, pad work, sparring with the same partners he's used for years. Standard stuff. Professional but predictable. Now compare that to what Topuria's been doing. This maniac has been training with former heavyweight boxing champions, working with Olympic-level coaches, and here's the crazy part. He's been specifically targeting the exact style of fighter that gives Crawford the most trouble. You see, Crawford struggles against pressure fighters who can close distance quickly and land power shots in tight spaces. That's exactly what Topuria specializes in. While Crawford has been coasting on his technical superiority against slower, more predictable opponents, Topuria has been sharpening his tools against the most explosive, unpredictable strikers on the planet.
Then maybe you can even give up a few pounds and both guys can step in a ring for Zuffa Boxing, okay? Both guys can make an absolute goddamn fortune, and Ilia Topuria might just go out there and, unlike Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather, might knock this guy out. Because I tell you what, I would never bet against Ilia Topuria in any kind of combat situation, right? Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't watched too much of Shakur Stevenson. Can't lie. I don't have time to watch every single fight that happens on this planet, right? I watch a lot of UFC. I like a bit of Thai boxing. I like some kickboxing. I like all of combat sports. If it's on, I'll watch it. If I've got time, I'll tune in. If I'm not on the other side of the goddamn world, that is, or flying back from the other side of the goddamn world, right? I'll watch it if it's on and I'm sitting at home in front of a TV.
But what's really insane is how Topuria has been reverse engineering Crawford's entire approach to fighting. He's not just watching Crawford's highlight reels like some casual fan. This dude has been breaking down every single round Crawford has ever fought, studying his footwork patterns, timing his defensive reactions, mapping out exactly when Crawford likes to switch stances and why. Topuria's team has identified a specific window in Crawford's combinations where he drops his left hand for exactly 0.3 seconds. Most fighters would never even notice that gap, let alone be fast enough to exploit it. But Topuria has been drilling that exact counter for months, turning it into muscle memory. He's basically created a blueprint for destroying Crawford's entire fighting system, and Crawford has no idea it exists. This is the difference between someone who fights for sport and someone who studies combat like it's life or death. And speaking of life or death, let's talk about what happens when this fight actually gets made, because the ripple effects are going to be absolutely catastrophic for boxing's power structure. Right now, boxing promoters control everything: the venues, the broadcast deals, the fighter purses, even the narrative around who fights who and when. But if Topuria demolishes Crawford, suddenly every major boxing star is going to start asking themselves why they're giving away 70% of their earnings to promoters when they could potentially make more money in MMA or in crossover fights. Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, Topuria, all these young fighters who grew up watching MMA, they're going to start demanding more control over their careers. The UFC business model gives fighters more direct access to fans, more control over their image, and honestly, more opportunities to build lasting wealth. Boxing's promotional stranglehold only works when boxers believe they need that system to succeed. But one Topuria victory changes everything. Here's something that's going to blow your mind about the technical aspects of this potential fight. Ryan's biggest advantage has always been his ability to make adjustments mid-fight, to solve puzzles that other fighters present. But here's what he doesn't understand about facing someone like Garcia: MMA fighters don't present puzzles. They present chaos. In boxing, even the most aggressive fighters follow certain patterns, certain rhythms that can be timed and countered. MMA striking is completely different. It's built around unpredictability, around creating openings through feints and level changes and angles that don't exist in traditional boxing. Topuria has been training his entire career to land knockout shots from positions that boxers would consider impossible or impractical. His left hand doesn't just come straight down the pipe like a traditional boxer. It comes from weird angles, off-balance shifts, during transitions that would make boxing purists cringe. But those unorthodox techniques are exactly what make them so dangerous against orthodox boxing defenses. But let me tell you what's really going to separate this from every other crossover fight we've ever seen. When Floyd fought Conor, it was entertainment. When Jake Paul fights MMA guys, it's a circus. But Topuria versus Crawford, this is going to be pure, unfiltered violence between two fighters who genuinely believe they're the better man. There's real hatred here, real disrespect, and that changes everything about how a fight plays out. Crawford genuinely believes MMA fighters are inferior strikers who got lucky in a different sport. Topuria genuinely believes boxers are one-dimensional athletes who have been protected their entire careers. When two elite fighters have that level of personal animosity, combined with legitimate skills, you get fights that people talk about for decades. This isn't going to be a feeling-out process or a technical chess match. This is going to be two killers trying to prove their entire worldview is correct by destroying the other person as violently as possible. And here's where the story gets absolutely wild from a historical perspective. We're potentially witnessing the moment where MMA officially surpasses boxing as the premier combat sport in the world. Boxing has been declining in mainstream relevance for 20 years. The heavyweight division is a joke, the promotional politics are insane, and most casual fans can't name 5 active boxers. Meanwhile, MMA has been growing exponentially, attracting younger audiences, creating global superstars, and most importantly, producing fighters who can compete across multiple combat disciplines. If Topuria beats Crawford, it's not just one fight result. It's confirmation that the future of combat sports belongs to complete fighters, not specialists. Boxing becomes a niche skill, like wrestling or jiu-jitsu, important, but not sufficient on its own. The cultural implications are staggering. We're talking about the potential death of a sport that's been considered the ultimate test of fighting ability for over a century. Now let's get into the psychological warfare that's already started, because this is where Topuria's MMA background gives him an absolutely unfair advantage. In boxing, fighters typically keep their game plans secret, work with small teams, and try to reveal as little as possible before fight night. But Topuria has been openly discussing exactly how he plans to beat Crawford, breaking down specific techniques he's going to use, even predicting the round and method of victory. This isn't stupidity, it's advanced psychological manipulation. By telling Crawford exactly what he's going to do, Topuria is creating a mental trap. Crawford will be so focused on defending against the specific attacks Topuria has telegraphed that he won't see the real knockout shot coming from a completely different angle. It's the same strategy Conor McGregor used to devastating effect in the early part of his career. Tell your opponent you're going to knock them out with your left hand, make them obsess over defending the left hand, then knock them out with something completely different while their attention is divided. But here's what makes this situation absolutely perfect for Topuria. Crawford's ego won't let him back down now, even though his team probably knows this is a terrible idea. Crawford has spent his entire career being told he's one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, and now some MMA fighter is publicly calling him a fraud. His pride demands that he prove Topuria wrong, but his pride is exactly what's going to get him hurt. Smart fighters take fights they know they can win. Desperate fighters take fights they need to win, and fighters with wounded egos take fights they should avoid at all costs. Crawford is walking into this situation with all three mindsets working against him. He thinks he should win because he's a pure boxer. He needs to win to maintain his legacy. And his ego won't let him acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, Topuria represents a style and level of opposition he's never encountered before. The financial breakdown of this potential fight is absolutely mind-blowing when you really dig into the numbers. Crawford's biggest payday ever was around $15 million, and that was for a fight that took years to negotiate and barely broke even for the promoters. Topuria could potentially make more than that in a single UFC title defense. Plus, he keeps a bigger percentage of the revenue from merchandise, sponsorships, and international broadcast deals. They fight in a boxing ring. Crawford might make more money up front, but Topuria is building long-term wealth that extends far beyond fighting. He's got business investments in 3 different countries, speaks multiple languages which opens up massive international markets, and most importantly, he's positioning himself as the face of a new generation of combat sports. Crawford is trying to preserve the legacy of an old system. Topuria is building the foundation of whatever comes next. The money follows the momentum, and right now, all the momentum in combat sports is flowing toward MMA and away from traditional boxing. So here we are, watching what might be the most significant crossover fight in combat sports history take shape in real time. This isn't just about 2 fighters settling a personal dispute. This is about the future direction of an entire industry, the validation of different training philosophies, and potentially the final nail in the coffin for boxing's claim to superiority in striking arts. Topuria has already proven he can knock out legends in the most competitive fighting organization in the world. Now he's claiming he can do the same thing to one of boxing's supposed pound-for-pound kings with just 6 months of specialized training. If he's right, everything changes. If he's wrong, MMA fighters will think twice before challenging boxing's elite. But based on everything we've seen from Topuria so far, betting against him seems like a losing proposition. The man has never made a promise he couldn't keep, and he's promising to end Crawford's undefeated record in the most devastating way possible. Whether you're a boxing purist or an MMA fanatic, you cannot afford to miss what happens next in this story.